InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Dr. Lori Grifo. Welcome, Dr. Grifo.
Thank you, Jay. I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. Dr. Grifo is a licensed clinical psychologist with additional training in several energy psychology modalities. Dr. Grifo has had her own group and private practice for over 20 years. Now she is director of the Awaken Higher Brain Living Center in a neighborhood of Lakeview in Chicago, Illinois. What is energy psychology?
Well, energy psychology is very interesting. It's sort of a new branch of psychology that's coming out, and they just recently set up a system where you can be certified as an energy psychologist. So rather than energy healing, which is a little more esoteric, energy psychology involves things like eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or thought field therapy, emotional freedom technique, where they're kind of considered more sort of energetic modalities. You're dealing with the meridians, but you're dealing with emotional issues, nothing else. I have a specialization in trauma, so I trained in a lot of different modalities because I just get presented with so many symptoms.
Yeah, and how long have you been interested in energy psychology?
Well, that's interesting. I've always been interested in it as a person, in just energy work and quantum physics and all that as a person, but as a psychologist, pretty early on when I was training, I had a specialization in trauma. The reason I went to the school I did was they offered the PsyD in trauma, and it was one of the first ones in the country. And in my program, they were talking about how difficult it is to treat people with so many symptoms. So I looked into EMDR when Francine Shapiro was first marketing it. So I guess in a way I had an early interest in it, but I've only recently sort of stepped over more into actual energy work and higher consciousness and that kind of stuff. Now,
you brought a poster with you, and I would like for us to discuss it so that we can, our audience can understand what you mean by higher brain living, or what you refer to as heart.
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about this poster, if we can get a shot on that?
Yeah, this is a very just basic sketch, sort of a rudimentary sketch of the brain, and we simplified it for someone that doesn't really know anything about neuroanatomy. But we're talking about how that lower brain, that sort of more primitive part of the brain.
So we're talking about the anxiety, worry, stress.
Right, right. That we tend to live too much in that part of the brain, and the prefrontal cortex, which is what heart and higher brain living energizes, is that part of the brain shown in blue there, where you have that abundance, that confidence, that joy, but it actually entails way more than that. This is just a basic idea to give you the movement that we're creating with heart.
Now, is that anxiety, worry, stress, is that the basal ganglia region of the brain?
Well, the basal ganglia is really implicated with anxiety, yeah. And lots of other things too. The amygdala is very big with PTSD and anxiety. But the whole lower part of the brain, all of those more primitive structures, the prefrontal cortex is the newer part of the brain from an evolutionary perspective. So all of those parts tend to keep us in these stressful
So the brain,
loops.
and if I may, if we get a shot of this, please. That when you say lower part of the brain, here's like the brain stem,
the brain stem.
Like by our neck.
Right.
Here's the lower, and if we go higher and higher up the brain, and this is towards the front.
Towards the front. It's right up here. The prefrontal lobes are right here, and then the prefrontal cortex is part of that.
It's interesting, the color, because you think of red. you know, blood or you know, running hot.
Running hot, that's how I think of it, yeah.
Yeah, and then the blue is nice, cool. Yes.
Calmer.
Yeah, people, what they want to listen to to relax will say, I want to listen to water.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's why we created it. Like I said, it's a very simple thing, but it gives you the idea very quick that this is the old lower survival part of the brain, and this is the new evolved part of the brain.
Is there anything positive or helpful with the lower part of the brain?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the lower part of the brain, again, we're just saying lower part of the brain for simplification, but it is our survival part of the brain. You want that working properly because it will keep you alive. If you're being chased by a bear, it will keep you alive. The problem is with modern society is that we are stuck there so much of the time. We're running and running and, you know, like the hamster on the wheel analogy, and we get stuck in these lower brain loops of stress.
And well, I refer to it as we blow things out of proportion.
Yeah.
We overreact and make things life or death
Overreact.
when they're not.
Absolutely.
And so every time we do that, the body senses a life or death emergency and gives us additional energy and
floods us with chemicals. It
that
floods us
toxic,
with chemicals,
that are
right?
toxic if it's too often and too long.
Right, and that's, so mainly what we're talking about is chronic stress that causes all the problems and causes so many medical problems in people. And what the prefrontal cortex does, it gets you out of that constantly ruminating and blowing things out of proportion, and it just gives you that higher, calmer, more balanced perspective. And it's also implicated in literally in higher consciousness. More spiritual matters.
Yeah, I was unaware of that. Now, is that like the right temporal lobes? Is that considered that?
Not so. No, the temporal lobes are. There's some stuff where they thought that they had found a God region in the temporal, and that's probably what. Yeah, the God spot. Right. That's probably what you're talking about. Candace Pert is a neurobiologist, and she has done a lot of work on all the neurochemicals that run through our bodies. And she said that she felt that if there was a part of the human body that allowed us to connect to God, it was the prefrontal cortex. So we think that this is more about our ability to calm ourselves down, sort of like we might in meditation, so that we can connect to that higher part.
And I would also think that using the prefrontal cortex is prevention.
Absolutely.
Not only to calm us down, but to prevent. But to go into deep relaxation, you produce those calming hormones, and so when you're exposed to stress, the stress takes less of a physical, mental, and emotional toll.
That's it. And that's what people report in heart and higher brain living, that as they go along with more and more sessions, things roll off their back now, they're not reacting as much, they're calmer with their kids.
And how long is a typical heart session?
Session is 45 minutes, and it entails a couple of different body positions, lots of different contacts that I'm making on the body. You're going to see a short demonstration of what I would call the beginning of a heart session, because to just describe it verbally, you won't get what I'm talking about.
Well, and if you want to do some of the deeper parts of the session, you can skip to that and just.
I can try. Yeah, it's hard to do that because it's a real human being, and I don't want to shove her into that place. And some of it is time too. You'll see when I do the demonstration, it's amazing that the breath changes in the body, and this movement starts occurring in the body.
Are you aware of any research done on heart?
We have a little bit of research done, not too much. It's fairly new. These are I brought some EEG scans with me to show you. We have mainly anecdotal evidence, thousands of people who have written testimonials, and we do an assessment of them in the program, and we have thousands of those.
Well, there's a lot of research done on massage therapy, therapeutic touch, healing touch, and I would think that there's an overlap.
There's some overlap. With this, though, it's a heart session is definitely relaxing. You feel relaxed, but I would say you feel sort of energized at the same time. It's really different. One of my first clients at my center said it was a little bit like having a great massage doing a deep meditation and having a great talk with